Welcome to Kiss and Tell Stories. Enjoy the story and have a great time listening. My fiancé and my best friend tried to scam me out of my money, but they were still too inexperienced. The dowry, several gold bars worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, given to me by my parents, had been swapped out by that bastard boyfriend of mine. I secretly switched them back after I discovered the scheme. Half a month later, he pretended to be frail, holding a stomach cancer diagnosis paper in his hand, and stood before me sobbing. "Sadie Lewis, let's call off our wedding. I hope you find someone better than me. I've been diagnosed with cancer, and I don't have much time left." Sadie Lewis, my heart aches so much. He spoke while crying miserably, tears and snot streaming down his face. I thought to myself, did this jerk smear chili on his hands or something? You're only 26 years old. You still have your whole future ahead of you. Yet heaven is so unfair. I never imagined I'd be struck with such an illness. I love you so much, but I can't become a burden to you. I don't want to ruin your life by staying. Could it be a misdiagnosis? I reached out to take the diagnosis paper to check, but he panicked and quickly hid it behind his back. I paused for a moment, suddenly recalling something from a few days ago, and everything became clear. On our engagement night, I had been so exhausted that I dozed off on the hotel sofa. In a daze, I vaguely heard Michael Lee sneaking over and softly calling my name. "Sadie Lewis." I heard him, but, wanting to tease him, I deliberately kept my eyes closed. Unexpectedly, after making sure I was fast asleep, he walked straight over to my best friend and said, "Hurry up, swap the gold." At that moment I was utterly shocked but managed to stay still. Peeking through the slit of my eyelids, I saw the two of them pulling out a pile of gold bars from their bag, swapping them with the gold bars that had been placed on the table. I even heard Michael Lee say, "Thank goodness Eli Clark helped us hold onto the gold. Using fake gold to swap for her real gold. Once we sell it later, we'll have the money." Eli Clark quickly interrupted him, but by then my drowsiness had completely vanished. Fortunately, because the gold bars were numerous and heavy, they didn't find it convenient to carry them away immediately and instead hid them in a drawer. After they left the room, I quietly switched the gold bars back. Up until now, I haven't said a word about it. I wanted to see just what else these two shameless cheaters were planning to pull. Since I was young, my mother had always taught me to be cautious when choosing a man. Yet, out of all the people who pursued me, how did I end up picking such a lowly thief? I probed, asking, "What are you hiding?" Michael Lee panicked and his voice instinctively rose. "I'm not hiding anything. I was just afraid you'd be heartbroken if you saw it." Seeing his clumsy acting, the mischievous side of me flared up. I helped Michael Lee sit down and said, "This happened so suddenly, but I thought it through. We can't break up. Michael Lee, my heart belongs to you alone. Besides, you've already paid the engagement gift of $38,000 and provided many other items. I can't leave you. I am your fiancé. I must walk with you through this final journey." Since he claimed to have stomach cancer, I had to at least escort him part of the way. Michael Lee stared at me for a moment, seeming a little moved. I tried hard to suppress a mocking smile and sneered inwardly. That line must have made him feel overjoyed, huh? But the very next second, Michael Lee still scooted a bit further away and said, "Sadie Lewis, you're a good woman. But in this life, I don't deserve that blessing." I thought to myself, of course you don't deserve it. Michael Lee's vision was far too narrow. My family's background was not bad, maybe not extremely wealthy, but certainly better off than Michael Lee's family and my so-called best friend Eli Clark's. That's why my parents could easily afford a dowry worth several $100,000 in gold bars for me. And now, for just a little bit of wealth, Michael Lee was choosing to betray me. Truly, he wasn't blessed enough to enjoy what he had. I might not marry him, but there was no way I was going to quietly swallow this loss. If he wanted to steal my dowry, then me taking his engagement gift money in return wasn't too much, right? I really don't want to ruin your life. Let's call off our wedding. Someday you'll find someone better, he said. I pretended to be conflicted, but the engagement party has already been held. All our friends and family know about it, and the betrothal money your family gave me is already in my hands. Returning it would be such a hassle. Michael Lee, I don't mind at all. Let's just stay together. I gazed into his eyes, trying to appear as sincere as possible. As soon as I mentioned the betrothal money, sure enough, Michael Lee hesitated. After all, it was nearly $40,000. He still felt reluctant to let it go. While he was still silent, I directly helped him back home. Since he supposedly had stomach cancer, he definitely couldn't eat anything good anymore. I deliberately chose unpleasant, hard-to-swallow liquid foods to feed Michael Lee, but without being too healthy. The millet porridge was cooked with water from the toilet. The mashed yam was mixed with a little bit of cement powder, and the chicken soup was made from frozen drumsticks flavored with seasoning powder. After a few meals like that, Michael Lee ended up hugging the toilet, vomiting so much he couldn't even lift his head. I suppressed my laughter, putting on a worried face and gently encouraging him. Michael Lee, your stomach cancer seems really serious. Should we go to the hospital? This isn't a solution. Let me call an ambulance for you. After being tortured like that for several days, vomiting from both ends, Michael Lee still didn't dare to go to the hospital. On the fourth day, he finally couldn't bear it anymore. Pretending to nap, he secretly called Eli Clark from the bedroom. Eli Clark, that engagement money is only about $40,000. Compared to those gold bars, it's a guaranteed win. Stop asking me to get the betrothal money back. If she keeps torturing me like this, I might actually get stomach cancer for real. I couldn't hold it anymore and burst out laughing on the spot. An hour later, Michael Lee finally couldn't stand it and said, Sadie Lewis, I've thought it over. We can't continue like this. It's not fair to you. I don't have much time left and can't stay by your side anymore. The only thing I can do for you now is to set you free. As for the engagement money, just consider it my gift to you, adding to your dowry for your next marriage. I pretended to be shocked, pinching my thigh to squeeze out 2 drops of tears. But this wasn't a signed contract in black and white. Your family might not agree. What if later they come to ask for the money back? Forget it. I don't want that little bit of money. Why don't I just continue taking care of you? I said sincerely. Michael Lee gritted his teeth and immediately wrote a voluntary commitment letter to gift the engagement money to me. Come on, I'll take you to notarize it, he said, even more eager than I was. Michael Lee's family conditions were far worse than mine. The more than $40,000 engagement money had been scraped together by borrowing from all over the place. Their goal was to marry up, so that my parents would feel reassured about handing me over to him. Now, teaming up with Eli Clark, they were rushing to pocket my dowry. After leaving the notary office, Michael Lee's face showed complete determination and finality. Sadie Lewis, from now on, let's completely cut ties. I hope you live well, he said before clutching his stomach and walking away without looking back. I watched his figure disappear and casually dialed Eli Clark's number. Sob, Eli Clark, what should I do now? Michael Lee has stomach cancer. He called off our engagement. I was planning to help him make some money, but now he's not going to make it. I don't even know how to help him anymore. Sure enough, as soon as I said that, Eli Clark became visibly agitated. Sadie Lewis, then you should still help him make money. Maybe if you earn enough for his treatment, he might survive. I secretly chuckled. I was waiting for you to say exactly that. You disgusting pair. Betraying my feelings. Even though I got my gold bars back. There's no way I'm letting you off so easily. Eli Clark came with me to Michael Lee's house. I intentionally stood behind her. When Michael Lee opened the door, the first person he saw was her. Finally, you're here. I was just about to... I hid the coldness in my eyes and leaned out halfway from behind Eli Clark. Smiling slightly. About to what? Michael Lee froze on the spot. He instinctively glanced at Eli Clark and, flustered, stuttered. What I meant was, I... He couldn't think of anything and became so anxious his face turned bright red. In the end, Eli Clark stepped in to cover for him. He's worried you'd be too upset over the broken engagement and asked me to come over so we could discuss how to make you feel better. Michael Lee nodded frantically like a chicken pecking rice. Only then did I pretend to understand and walk inside, sitting down on the sofa first. The two of them, thinking I couldn't see, continued exchanging shady glances and subtle signals behind my back. I sighed inwardly at my past foolishness. I had trusted them too much to notice these tiny details before. That this time was different. How could I let this vile couple continue their little show right in front of me? So I deliberately said, Michael Lee, if your stomach cancer is so serious, why are you looking healthier by the day? Maybe the hospital misdiagnosed you. Let me take you back for a re-examination. Michael Lee immediately tensed up. He instinctively glanced at Eli Clark before stammering. No need. It must be a rebound effect or something. I held back a cold laugh, nodding sadly. All right then, but if you're still like this next time, I'll definitely take you back to the hospital for a checkup. Michael Lee verbally agreed, but in reality, he guiltily rubbed his nose. Eli Clark immediately rushed out to mediate. Weren't we supposed to be here to discuss serious matters? I held my forehead, pretending to be troubled, before finally stating the real purpose of my visit. After I finished speaking, Michael Lee's eyes lit up. Sadie Lewis, you're really willing to take me with you to invest and start a business? Didn't you used to strongly oppose it? Sadie Lewis, you're so good to me. I was so disgusted I got goosebumps. The past is the past. Michael Lee had always wanted to use my father's connections to climb the social ladder. My father had refused for 2 reasons. First, because we weren't married yet, and second, because Michael Lee hadn't yet passed his trial period. Dad feared that once he helped Michael rise, he might turn around and mistreat me. But now things were different. If I said I'd take him, it meant for sure we would make money, but not in the way he imagined. After all, investing isn't a guaranteed profit. Losing everything is perfectly normal. Michael Lee was so excited he sometimes forgot he was supposed to be a terminal stage stomach cancer patient. Seizing the opportunity, I pressed on. I know some stock codes that are guaranteed to bring profits. Absolutely no losses. But I still put on a conflicted look. Still, investments need initial capital. Michael, do you still have any money? Michael Lee and Eli Clark's eyes gleamed. Then they tentatively asked me, would 100,000 be enough? I knew they were already eyeing that stash of gold. But if they found out now that the gold was fake, where would the fun be? I sighed heavily. 100,000 would definitely be enough. At the very least, we could easily make hundreds of thousands. I added wistfully, if it weren't for the fact that I'm sure gold prices will peak at the end of the year, I would have sold my gold bars already and made even more. But investing is risky, and gold is a sure thing. So I still prefer to hold on to the gold. Michael Lee pressed his lips together and stayed silent. Seeing his contemplative expression, I knew he had taken the bait. As long as he didn't immediately sell the gold, there would still be a good show to watch. Eli Clark had gone with me when we left. But halfway along, she found an excuse to turn back. I secretly tailed her and, sure enough, she went back to argue with Michael Lee. What did you mean by what you said earlier? Having Sadie Lewis is really good. Are you regretting it now? Don't forget, it was you who suggested swapping her gold bars in the first place. If you dare to crawl back to her, I'll expose everything. And when that happens, no one will be able to have a peaceful life. Michael Lee was an ambitious man. And now he was entirely focused on making money, so he impatiently retorted, "Are you not also envious of people with better backgrounds? We're both the same. Neither of us has the right to criticize the other." The two of them went back and forth for a few more exchanges before the argument escalated into a full-blown shouting match. Poor Eli Clark's self-esteem took a heavy hit. The final thing she shouted out made my jaw nearly hit the floor. "Huh? So you're finally telling the truth, huh? You think I'm pathetic, don't you? But whenever a bit of money slips through her fingers, you wag your tail and run to her like a dog. You want to go back to your old flame. Fine. But take the child in my belly with you. Let's see if she still wants you then." Pregnant? I frowned in disgust. No wonder Michael Lee was so desperate to call off the engagement. At that moment, I heard the sound of scuffling, followed by a loud, crisp slap and Michael Lee's wails. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Looks like Eli Clark just got smacked around. Once I got home, I immediately contacted a loan shark and sent them the contact details of the two traitors. 2 days later, Michael Lee sent me a screenshot of his bank balance. $50,000. "Is this enough?" he asked. I pretended not to understand. "Didn't we agree on 100,000? Michael Lee stammered. There was an incident. I could only manage this much for now." I smiled. At that moment, I felt incredibly lucky. Just a few words had pushed him into borrowing $50,000 from loan sharks. Thank goodness I hadn't married such a brainless fool. Michael Lee was too reluctant to sell the gold, which was steadily appreciating. And since he thought he had a backup plan, he chose to borrow heavily to try to catch a wolf with bare hands. I deliberately waited 2 hours before replying with a single word. "Okay." Since he was using someone else's money to gamble on stocks, I wasn't going to be polite about it either. I just hoped that when the loan sharks came after him, it wouldn't be too miserable. Since my father had taught me about stocks from a young age, I knew a fair bit. I also made an effort to gather insider information and carefully selected a stock, then instructed Michael Lee to invest the entire $50,000 into it. 3 days later, the $50,000 had earned more than $10,000. Making a few $1,000s a day had Michael Lee floating in heaven. But honestly, I did feel a little sorry for him. Clearly he was so happy, yet he still had to pretend to be sick in front of me. "Sadie Lewis, thank you so much," he said. Although Eli Clark was unwilling, at this point she didn't dare to oppose anything related to money. "Sadie Lewis, I want to invest too. I don't have that much money. Can I invest $20,000? That's my entire life savings." Since she was willingly jumping into the fire pit herself, of course I wasn't going to stop her. For 7 consecutive days, the stock kept steadily rising. Both of them made money like crazy, and their ambitions grew alongside their profits. When Eli Clark saw me again, her eyes were practically glowing. "I really didn't know before, turns out. Rich people like you make money so easily. Sadie Lewis, why didn't you tell me about good things like this earlier? Were you trying to keep me poor on purpose just to laugh at me?" Of course, there was no way I could let words like that slide. Without hesitation, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. Under Eli Clark's furious gaze, I coldly reasoned. "I brought you along to make money, and that's what you think of me? Fine. Next time there's a good stock, I'll keep it to myself." I'll never bring you along again. One sentence, and Ely Clark's face turned a few shades paler. Michael Lee glared at her angrily too. And after hesitating for a moment, he reluctantly took $5,000 from his pocket and handed it to me. I pretended to still be angry. What's this supposed to mean? Gratitude. For remembering who helped you, he said. I ignored him. Michael Lee gritted his teeth, dragging his pale, sickly face closer to me, and said, Sadie Lewis, I have almost $90,000 now. Do you know any stocks with even higher returns? Ely Clark didn't dare to speak, but stared at me intently. Only then did I notice that in just a few days, Michael Lee had clearly lost a lot of weight, probably starving himself to look more convincing. I didn't answer his question. Instead, I sighed heavily and said with sorrow, Hayes, poor thing, in just a few days, you've gotten so skinny that even your cheekbones are sticking out. For a brief moment, Michael Lee's face twisted awkwardly, but he still forced a weak smile that surprisingly didn't look fake. I'm near the end already. My only wish now is to leave some money behind for my parents, he said, trying to steer the topic back to making money again. But I deliberately avoided it. With you getting this skinny, it's not good. Here's what we'll do. I'll order some good food. You should at least eat a little. Half an hour later, the table was filled with all kinds of delicious dishes. I ate to my heart's content while Michael Lee could only sit there, swallowing hard, unable to eat a single bite. Ely Clark, if he's not eating, why aren't you eating either? Ely Clark was clearly forcing a smile, but before she could even get a bite of vegetables into her mouth, she rushed to the bathroom to dry heave. Michael Lee reflexively wanted to follow her to check, but I quickly placed more food into his bowl, forcing him to stay seated. You should eat a little. Even if you can't eat much, you have to try. After struggling for a moment, Michael Lee finally picked up his chopsticks and started eating. I hid the cold glint in my eyes and waited until he had taken 2 bites before casually remarking, For a stomach cancer patient, your appetite is even better than Ely Clark's. Why does she keep vomiting every time she tries to eat? Could it be that Ely Clark is pregnant? Who's the father? The chewing sounds from Michael Lee and the retching from the bathroom simultaneously stopped. I smiled and said, Ely Clark, are you really pregnant? Who's your boyfriend? As your best friend, I should remind you, getting pregnant before marriage can really damage a woman's reputation. Men are unpredictable, especially those with shady pasts and bad habits. You need to be extra careful. The more I spoke, the uglier the expressions on both their faces became. Michael Lee, what do you think? As a man, you should understand men best, right? He paused slightly, then forced himself to nod. Sadie Lewis is right. Men tend not to cherish what they have once they get it. Ely Clark slammed her phone down on the table, her face dark. I'm not pregnant. Who would get pregnant before marriage anyway? I just smiled and nodded. I really enjoy watching her act like she hates me but still has to suck up to me. After teasing Ely Clark, I turned to scrutinize Michael Lee. If you're making so much money, shouldn't you be using it for treatment? But why don't you have a single needle mark on you? I heard people undergoing chemotherapy lose even the hair on their legs. But your hair still looks so thick. How strange. Michael Lee's hand, holding his chopsticks, turned deathly pale from clenching too hard. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh inside. If he wants to put on a show, fine. I'll play along until I peel off his entire facade. After the meal, they kept asking me about investments. I deliberately put on a hesitant expression and said, Recently, there's been some insider news about a stock that's going to skyrocket. I'm planning to buy myself. They say it's a once-in-a-decade opportunity. So many people are borrowing money to invest. The two exchanged glances, their faces unable to hide their excitement. Really, Sadie Lewis? You're not tricking us, right? I shrugged. It's just insider gossip. Believe it or not, it's up to you. The more indifferent the first acted, the more convinced they became. And after their previous round of profits, their appetites had grown even bigger. 3 days later, Michael Lee and Ellie Clark came to my house. When I saw Michael Lee again, I almost screamed like I'd seen a ghost. In just over a week, he had become so thin that his bones were clearly visible. His lips were drained of all color, and there were bruises on his arms and inside his elbows. Funniest of all, he had lost every single strand of hair. I deliberately checked. His scalp was completely bald, even slightly red and irritated, as if the hair had been forcibly pulled out. Now he finally looks like a real cancer patient. His legs were so weak that he wobbled just trying to stand. Yet there was still a crazed greed burning in his eyes. Sadie Lewis, here's the total. $100,000. Please put it all into the stock you mentioned. His bottomless greed had led him to borrow an extra $1 million. I took the money and said calmly, all right. Making money in stocks is hard, but losing it is easier than breathing. They threw all the money into the market. The first day it rose. The second day it rose again. But on the third day it plummeted uncontrollably. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Well, what can you expect? Together they had exactly $200,000. The the real issue was they were too confident. They even used leverage. In just one night, the entire $200,000 evaporated. Actually, it wasn't just $200,000. Thanks to my subtle bragging, Eli Clark had also maxed out her credit cards buying luxury goods. Now she was buried in debt on top of debt. And the gold they were counting on? Fake. What could they possibly sell to repay their loans now? I turned off my phone and had the best night's sleep. What you think about during the day, you dream about at night. That night, I dreamt of both of them collapsing under the shock and jumping off a building together. The next morning, I woke up laughing, opened my phone, and found over 100 missed calls. Both of them had gone completely crazy, flooding my inbox with messages. Where are you? Didn't you say it was insider information and guaranteed profits? Why did we lose everything in just 3 days? This money was all borrowed from loan sharks. Do you know how hard it was to get? How are we supposed to pay it back? Please pick up, please. Eli Clark was even more hysterical, sending furious voice messages. You set me up, didn't you? All these years. You never once helped me make money. And suddenly you're being nice now. I'm over $100,000 in debt because of you. You've ruined me. Why aren't you home? I'm going to kill you. I hadn't even finished listening to all the messages when Michael Lee's call came through again. This time I answered. Sadie Lewis, you finally picked up. Have you checked the stocks? How could it all crash overnight? Didn't you guarantee it before? Why did it suddenly turn out like this? I silently moved the phone a little farther from my ear. His yelling was so loud it hurt both of my ears. Why are you getting so worked up? Playing stocks naturally comes with profits and losses. I'm not a fortune teller. How could I possibly know? Which stock would guarantee profits with no losses? Did you really not consider such risks beforehand? Michael Lee fell silent for a moment, while Eli Clark completely lost control and started cursing wildly on the other end of the line. I coldly interrupted Eli Clark's hysterical barking and directly asked, "Why are you so cozy with my ex-boyfriend?" She was so furious that she lost all rationality. Without thinking, she blurted out, "I stole your boyfriend, you idiot. You're just finding out now. Not only did I steal your boyfriend, but I'm also pregnant with his child. Are you angry? Are you going insane? You dumb fool. Besides having good luck in your next life, What else are you even good for? I let out a laugh and changed the subject. Do you want me to lend you some money to pay off your loan shark debts? Michael Lee almost instantly jumped at the offer. Yes, I need it. My love, don't listen to her nonsense. I only got close to her because of the stock stuff. I never betrayed you. Cough. Cough. Nian. I'm about to die. I really don't know how much time I have left. Could you really bear to watch me die and leave my parents buried in debt? Please help me pay it off. Faced with money problems, even Eli Clark's knees softened and she dropped to begging. Sadie Lewis, I was just angry earlier and said things without thinking. I'm sorry, sweetie. I was just panicking. I didn't even bother hiding my laughter anymore. Eli Clark, see? Besides being good at getting reborn, I can also make you apologize anytime, anywhere. Pregnant, huh? Perfect. You two owe $200,000. I wish you 8 sons at once. Before they could start screaming at me again. I hung up the call one step ahead and immediately blocked all their contact methods. But life's more fun when blessings don't come in pairs. And disasters never come alone. Right? As soon as I hung up, I sent a message to the loan shark boss, informing him that the two had lost all their money. Upon hearing this, the thug quickly gathered his men and headed straight for Michael Lee's house. Just imagining the scene, their furious shouting and cursing, made my blood boil with excitement. Without hesitation, I grabbed my car keys and drove straight to Michael Lee's house. There was no way I was going to miss a show like this. When I arrived, I saw the two of them being dragged out of the house by a group of thugs. 3 to 5 men surrounded them, barking, "Pay up!" Their faces were miserable as they pleaded, "Big brother, something unexpected happened. Could you please give us a little more time?" As soon as they finished speaking, one of the thugs directly grabbed Michael Lee by the neck and slammed him against the wall. His face immediately flushed bright red. "You think I want to listen to your bullshit? When you borrowed the money, you made all kinds of big promises, talking about how $1 million was nothing. But a mosquito bite to you, huh? Were you just pretending to be cool?" As he spoke, another thug handed him a brick. Without any hesitation, the leader smashed it straight into Michael Lee's head. Eli Clark shrieked in terror at the sight. The thug, irritated by her screaming, raised his hand and slapped her twice across the face. Eli Clark immediately started trembling all over and didn't dare make a sound. Michael Lee lay on the ground like a dead dog, but was dragged up again. No money? No money means you pay with your life. Corneas, heart, liver, spleen, stomach, kidneys, all of it can be sold for money. Perfect, I never turned down business like that, the leader sneered. Looking closely, Michael Lee was so terrified he had wet himself. He stammered and shouted desperately, "Don't! Please don't! I really have money. I have gold bars at home in the safe. A lot of them. It's true. Come in and see, just don't kill me." The gang leader exchanged a glance with his men. A few minutes later, they came out holding a pile of gold bars. "Boss, it's real. This damn brat was pretending to be a good kid to avoid paying." The gang leader laughed loudly, grabbed Michael Lee by the hair, and slammed his head against the wall once more before swaggering away. Meanwhile, my heart was pounding with excitement. It was my first time witnessing a debt collection scene this intense. If they found out the gold was fake, wouldn't they tear the whole house down? Seizing the moment when the two were still dazed from the beating, I got out of my car. At that moment, Eli Clark was struggling to lift Michael Lee off the ground. They wrestled with it for ages but barely moved him an inch. I approached casually, and as soon as I stood firmly in place, I heard Michael Lee let out a scream. Ouch! I moved my toe slightly, Oops. Sorry, didn't mean to step on you. As soon as they heard my voice, both of them looked up furiously. Eli Clark, slightly less injured, immediately stood up and looked ready to fight me to the death. You still dare show your face here? We're in this mess all thanks to you. Do you believe I'll kill you? I exaggerated a frightened look, then burst out laughing. Just you. A pair of beaten, broken losers like you. Eli Clark gritted her teeth and attacked without a word. But I had already been on guard. Not only did I firmly grab the hand she tried to use to pull my hair, but with my other hand, I gave her a loud, resounding slap. One slap wasn't enough to satisfy me. I copied the thug's earlier move, grabbed her hair, and slammed her head hard against the wall. Bang! I could almost hear the water in her brain sloshing around. Don't think I don't know about the dirty little things you two did behind my back. Eli Clark. Was someone else's boyfriend really that tempting? And you, Michael Lee, any pile of dog shit outside. And you still wanted a taste, huh? With brains like yours, you too think you're destined to get rich. Maybe in your next life. Michael Lee glared at me with eyes full of rage, as if he could spit fire, but his arm seemed broken, and blood was pouring down his head. He was lying flat on the ground, unable even to crawl. Having vented enough, I arrogantly got into my car and drove off. Their punishment was far from over. The next morning, Eli Clark pushed Michael Lee, now in a wheelchair, to my doorstep. Both of them were covered in injuries. Michael Lee's face was so swollen. He looked like a pig's head. I barely recognized him. Sadie Lewis, you bitch. You dared to scam me. The dowry you gave me. What, over $100,000 worth of gold? It was all fake. How dare you try to catch a wolf with bare hands? I folded my arms and leaned casually against the doorframe. Are you crazy? My dowry is still safe at home, untouched. Whether it's real or fake, what does it have to do with you? Michael Lee gritted his teeth so hard he couldn't even speak. Seems he was still aware enough to feel embarrassed, not daring to expose his own crimes in public. While he struggled to find his words, Eli Clark wasn't shy at all. She sneered. Let's be real. We suspected your dowry gold was fake a long time ago. We deliberately took a few pieces to get them appraised, and guess what? All of it was fake. You should be ashamed of yourself. Using fake gold to exchange for all the engagement gifts and goods from us. You're not afraid of getting hit by a car for creating such bad karma. Before I could respond, Michael Lee bent over and coughed violently, putting on his "I'm about to die" act once again. Sadie Lewis, you know those gold bars were all I had. Can't you give them back to me? That was my family's retirement money. How could you be so cruel and trick me? I clapped my hands dramatically, pretending to be touched. Both of them still wore clueless expressions. Oscar definitely owes you two a golden statue, I sneered. Michael Lee, have you ever seen a late stage cancer patient who's still bouncing around like you? You keep accusing me of scamming you, but weren't you scamming me too? We're even. Michael Lee and Eli Clark exchanged a glance, but still stubbornly refused to admit anything. What are you talking about? I don't understand a word you're saying, they insisted. I sneered coldly, dragging out every word with emphasis as I tore the mask off their little charade. Do you know why the gold bars turned out to be fake? Because I had already switched them back. On the night of our engagement, I saw everything, you two, that filthy pair, swapping the real gold for fakes right in front of my eyes. After you left, I took back my real dowry. One day, my friends invited me out to karaoke. My friend smiled meaningfully, her finger brushing past all the others before finally stopping at Michael Lee. The rest of you can leave. You stay, she said. Michael Lee wore a black shirt and dress pants, with his shirt unbuttoned down to his chest. Just by looking at him, you could guess what kind of situation Eli Clark was in now. Michael Lee looked at me, utterly embarrassed and at a loss for what to do. My friend, who understood me best, threw a wad of cash onto the floor and said, "Want it?" Michael Lee clenched his fists tightly, but eventually nodded. A grape fell next to my foot. Since we had once been engaged, everyone in the room knew about the messy history between me and him. Everyone here belonged to the same circle, and naturally shared an unspoken rule. No matter if it's friends or lovers, once someone betrays you, they are dead to you forever. Michael Lee hadn't just betrayed me. He had stolen my dowry and faked a terminal illness. Every act of his had trampled on the ultimate bottom line for everyone present. So now they all took turns mocking him without mercy. Every sarcastic comment made Michael Lee's face pale a little more. Finally, he knelt in front of me, red-eyed, staring down at my feet, unable to say a word. "Don't want the money anymore?" I asked. Michael Lee swallowed hard and suddenly burst into tears in front of everyone. Honestly, with an ex-fiance like this, my face was practically thrown into the trash. Suddenly, Michael Lee clutched my leg, his voice choked with sobs. "Sadie Lewis, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I shouldn't have had improper thoughts about your dowry. And I should never have let that bitch seduce me. Please, give me another chance. I'm begging you. I don't have cancer. I'm healthy. I can stay with you until we grow old together. Please, Sadie Lewis, give me another chance. I'll work like a slave for you for the rest of my life. If you help me pay off this debt." I frowned in disgust and kicked him squarely in the chest. He rolled back onto the floor, trying to crawl toward me again. But I stopped him cold, scolding. "Everything that's happening to you today is the result of your own actions. It's way too late to come begging me now. I'm not in the habit of taking back rotten leftovers." Despite being rejected, Michael Lee continued to shamelessly beg and plead. Left with no other choice, I called the manager over. After briefly explaining the situation, Michael Lee was taken away. "You were brought here to work off your debt, and now you dare to offend our guests? You must be tired of living. Which hand of yours dared to touch the customer just now? Break it. Fix yourself up properly, then come back and work." Michael Lee struggled desperately, but in the process, his wig fell off. His bald head, under the bright lights, reflected so strongly it made even the manager feel nauseous. "God damn, what kind of freakish horror show are you trying to pull? Trying to scare our guests to death?" After Michael Lee caused such a scene, the atmosphere at the party immediately reached a peak. Everyone kept playing until midnight before finally dispersing. I had drunk a bit too much and was almost at the door, when I realized I had forgotten my phone inside. When I went back to get it, passing by the restroom, I suddenly heard the struggling voice of a woman. "Don't touch me. Get lost. All of you. I didn't come here to sell myself." At first, I thought about finding someone to help, but after listening carefully to the voice, I changed my mind. It was Eli Clark. She was struggling helplessly. Then, the sharp sound of fabric tearing echoed from inside the restroom. God damn it, acting all innocent now. Didn't you just need money? Here, I'll give you money. Don't worry. I heard you love being the other woman outside anyway. I turned and walked faster, heading straight out. A person like her wasn't worth saving. Even if I had stepped in to help, she would have just found countless ways to blame it all on me later. Since that was the case, I decided to respect her fate. A few days later, I unexpectedly received a court summons. Michael Lee was suing me, claiming that I owed him the engagement money. It was truly laughable. The voluntary gift agreement he had signed was presented, leaving even the judge speechless. Michael Lee had reached the end of his rope, while my future was bright and promising. Not only did I not return any money, but I even took his money and spent a whole month traveling abroad. Spending money that literally fell from the sky? No guilt at all. As for the two of them for the rest of their lives, they could just work like oxen and horses to pay off their debts. Thank you all for listening. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to hear more great stories as soon as they're released.